Friday night, renowned Finnish conductor Dalia Stasevska made her debut with the Minnesota Orchestra. It's happening as her birthplace, Ukraine, is entering the second year of defending itself against Russia. Stasevska is a vocal defender of Ukraine, and she's been working to provide help and hope to Ukrainians suffering on the ground. And she joins me now. Welcome to Minnesota, Dalia.
Thank you very much.
First, let's talk a little bit about coming into Minnesota. You got here on Monday, and then this big winter storm comes, so this led to a different preparation for the concerts.
Yeah, we had to, unfortunately, a little bit cut off our rehearsing time, and then one of our concerts was cancelled. So from a Finnish perspective, it was a bit hilarious because we don't usually cancel anything, no matter what kind of storm there is. But still, it has been a very nice time here.
What have you been able to do? I know you had that extra time. Were you able to get out and see any attractions, or?
Well, I again had high hopes to visit some museums and nice restaurants, but everything was cancelled. So I had just a lovely walk around the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a little takeout or something? Were you able to find it?
Yeah, something like that. And I've been actually following Lizzo's 36 hours in Minneapolis list. So I checked out a few of her tips about some dining places.
And
so
she has a snowplow here that's named after her. It's called Blizzo, one of the plows that goes through.
Okay.
So how did you first get introduced to music? Where did that love come from?
I think it kind of was natural in our family. My parents are both painters, and my grandmother was a huge lover of classical music, so she wanted my father to become a classical pianist, but he wasn't so interested in that. So they kind of passed it to the next generation and thought that let's try with these kids. So I was just put into a conservatory when I was 8 years old. I was given violin, and my father said that this is going to be your profession.
Wow.
There was not much choice there. But somehow I actually enjoyed playing music from the very early age. And I think quite important moment in my life was when I was around 12 and 13 years old. I heard for the first time opera. Puccini's Madame Butterfly, and you can just imagine what kind of effect for I was just going into my teenage years, you know, what kind of effect that made into me, this dramatic story, and to hear for the first time orchestra playing. I've never seen anything like or heard anything like that. So it did a huge impact on me, and I started to dream about becoming an orchestra musician.
So you were able to move from the performance chair to the podium. How did that happen?
Well, that happened some years later. I already was studying in Sibelius Academy. That's the only music university we have in Finland. I was around 20 years old, and I saw for the first time a female conductor. So I saw a role model, somebody that looked like me, and then it made me realize that I've been all my life fascinated by orchestra music, that maybe I could try that too. And I approached a conducting professor and asked him that, could I try this? And he said, sure, and he invited me to his conducting masterclass. And after that, I've never let the conducting stick out of my hands.
How would you describe your style of conducting?
It's always difficult to, you know, I always believe that you have to be yourself. This is the most important thing, and then just let the music naturally flow from you. But maybe people say sometimes that I'm dynamic and expressive, and maybe I believe what they say.
I was going to use the word passion.
Well, yeah, that's definitely.
And you have obviously a lot of passion for Ukraine, even though you didn't grow up there, you were born there, but your family really nurtured that love of the culture of Ukraine over the years.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful to especially my grandmother, Ukrainian, who lived with us in Finland, and to my father. They really embraced Ukrainian culture, though there was no Ukrainians around in the city where we lived. And they taught us to read and write Ukrainian food, culture, history. And now during my adulthood, I started to really reconnect also with a kind of this fatherland, that it's not anymore this kind of like a beautiful dream country where all the apples are bigger, but it's more kind of concrete. Because when didn't really travel to Ukraine, we were not very wealthy family, so that was not something that we could do. But they still passed this love for Ukraine, and I'm really grateful for that I could have a glimpse through my whole childhood to my second half of me.
Let's go to a year ago when Russia invades Ukraine. Your brother, one of your brothers, is studying there when this happens. How did you learn of what was going on?
Well, of course, we knew and anticipated that something is going to happen already weeks prior to this. But I think in the end, the scale of it surprised everybody. This year has been incredibly painful. It feels almost that not a single Ukrainian has slept for a year. It is constant on this adrenaline and all sort of horrible feelings. We've seen things that nobody should have seen and experienced. And of course, living this so closely through my brother in the first days, he of course directly was in bomb shelters building Molotov cocktails because people in Kiev thought that they have to defend with their bare hands. Everybody was ready to take a bullet, to be honest, and of course it was extremely horrifying those first few months of this chaos, you know, when nobody really knew what is going on, and before Ukrainian kind of forces gathered everything together and could start real kind of like hitting back.
As dangerous as it was, though, you felt it important